Does it say we're live? All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, of course. Okay, good. Instagram Live is live now. Extra steps kind of ruins the intro, but welcome in. This is College Soccer Match Day, episode 5. Dylan Lane. I'm Mark Helkenberg. Um, since we're only 4 days away from the season, we might as well fit in an episode on kind of the landscape of college soccer and the direction it's heading since yeah, we might as well save the good stuff for when the games matter on Thursday. Anything to start us off with, Dylan?
No, just excited to watch games that kind of matter, and just kind of get going. But I think this episode will be good of kind of explaining like the college soccer landscape and where it's going and the pros and cons and kind of issues that can arise.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably have some hopefully decent points on or just opinions that may help some of the college soccer players out there and kind of getting a little bit more awareness of how all this stuff shapes out when it comes to going pro. So let's go to the agenda here. See where we want to start off. But yeah, I mean, this isn't like a new story. Other podcasts have done episodes on it, like Jimmy Conrad's. They were talking about the 21st century model. And obviously Sacho, or the head coach at Maryland, been talking about this for several years now. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about some of the direction that they're going. And this summer is, well, the U.S. Soccer announced that they were doing a, let me try to share the screen here. We'll share this tab instead. Yeah, so they formed a committee to hopefully lay a little bit more explanation and groundwork, probably anytime soon, if this timeline here is holding true. And the reason why we're talking about this is obviously it's the 2025 season, the implementation, and I think they could get things in place by the next calendar year. So that's why we kind of like tease this as this year coming into the season might be the last time we see this format. And honestly, and we'll get more into the details on the proposed calendar, but it's about due time for that, especially with how many years they've been talking about this.
Yeah, I remember like in my freshman year in 2019, we like as a team like each of us had to go up to fill out like yes and no if you wanted to extend the season. And I think it was at the time when they were doing surveys for each conference and like each play on each team. But that was like 5 years ago. So it just shows how this has been going on for so long. And especially, I think at the forefront, it's the big schools that are financially able to, like for them, it won't take a hit. But then it's kind of a whole can of worms if you kind of dive deeper into the mid majors and like the good schools that can compete, but might not have the financial backing with the AD and the president.
Yeah. Yeah, with all like the travel and the extra staffing with the athletic directors and stuff, or athletic trainers, my bad. But again, we'll get to roadblocks eventually. I just want to get to the section here. There was I'm like losing my mind. Yeah, so the reason why I'm pulling this up, everybody, is because I want to understand or help understand what the goals of an initiative like this are. And then we can kind of backtrack through the player pathway to pro and, student athlete education, player development, community engagement, both men's and women's, recognizing that the models and solutions may differ between the two. And again, we'll get into some of that or those differences. Yeah. But anyway, I think one of the other interesting things to know is Dan Helfrich uh, leading this committee. I'm like, I was telling my brother because me and him, we both work in banking, so we know consultant groups very well, and we were like, well, if you're going to form a committee that's going to be trying to problem solve, you might as well get the CEO of one of the most recognizable consultant companies in the world.
Yeah.
And it's funny also, like his son plays for Georgetown. I believe he's a junior this year. So yeah, I mean, he's connected to the game. I believe he also even was like a commentator for the Big East.
Yeah. No, he does the home
But
games for Georgetown, I think.
yeah, so a good person to lead, and they have a good mix, like experience and different viewpoints within the committees, and I'm sure they have other voices contributing as well. Let's go to. Don't worry, it'll get more fluid as we get picking up here. Just trying to lay a little bit of the background. So initially, a lot of the focus was just on lengthening the season, but I think over time, maybe with some of the college football rumors of like the bigger conferences like the Big Ten and the ACC, and for football it was the SEC, trying to like break off and create a power conference or a super. Well, just with everything that happened in Europe a few years ago, we can probably call it like a super league or something, or a super conference. But do we want to start there on what
Yeah.
that even looks like and what the complications would be?
Well, it's just like I get it with college football more because I'm not a big college football guy, but the big teams would pay the smaller teams to come and play, and usually it's a blowout. It's like 70-0, and of course there's exceptions and like miracles that happen. But you look at smaller college teams playing bigger college teams, and it's always a close game, especially with the amount of transfers and international students that come over that go to maybe the smaller school or maybe not well-known school. So I feel like while it sounds really cool to have a super league made up of the best well-known big schools, right? That can, like the Power Five schools, basically, right? With the good football programs and basketball programs and good campus size, and you know, they had like student size of 40,000, 30,000. I think it takes away from the like joy and the you can't really expect what happens during a college season, especially come tournament time. Whereas I think college football is more predictable. You have those top 8, top 20 teams. Whereas you look at the top 25 for the preseason, I think 6 are Power 5 maybe in the top 25. I could be mistaken, but you have teams that, won't even be considered in that super league. So then what do
Yeah,
they do? Because if they don't have the financial backing from the AD or the school to join it, are they just going to be a conference with 2 teams or 3 teams, or do they go Division 2, or do they go Division 3? Do they go club? So I feel like the structure is a little all over the place in regards to let's make this super league, and then everyone else has to figure it out. And of course, there's probably stuff that we don't know about that they're trying to plan. But if you're in between a big Power 5 and small school, so like a mid-major with not a lot of financial backing because the budgets are crazy within the conferences. One team might go up 2 days before an away trip and eat at the best restaurant and have a recovery day the day after a game. And a team might go the day of and drive 7 hours because they can't afford to go in the hotel. But the team that might go up the day of could beat that top 25 team, you know?
yeah.
I'm not saying upsets don't happen in college football, but I'm saying
But
if
yeah, but
it's
Alabama isn't losing to Grambling State.
yeah, and it's like, I don't know, like from being in that perspective, if I were to go to a mid-major or a small school and then this change happens and it's like, does the Super League play non-conference games? Because if not, where am I going to get my shot? Like I'm still going to like commit
Yeah,
to every game, but like if I don't play those ACC schools, those Big Ten schools, and I'm not even playing them in the tournament because maybe they have their own tournament, what's the point of having an NCAA tournament? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if the amount of schools were participating in that like power conference, I highly doubt that it'd ever play outside of that conference. So yeah, it's like, well, if you're trying to promote visibility on the level itself, um, isolating 50 teams into like a power conference and splitting it east and west is just kind of like it's like, yeah, those players on those teams would probably get more attention, but
Yeah.
what about the other 100 programs out there? Um, and then a lot of like incoming coaches, upcoming coaches that their message really sticks, their coaching style and philosophy is really successful. They take some of these programs that a lot of people maybe never even heard of and elevate them to the NCAA tournament and not
Yeah.
only get there, but win a game
I mean, look
against.
at like Gardner Webb. I know we always talk about them because of what
Yeah.
Scott Bowles have done, but like they wouldn't be in their Super League just off travel and like the budget alone.
Yeah.
And then you look what they did last year, beating Wake, beating Oregon State. It's like they wouldn't even have the opportunity to play those teams. Number one, if this happened, and this is us being naive and not knowing the details, but like
Yeah.
realistically, that would be the case, I'm assuming. Then on top of that, I bet their recruiting message for a lot of these coaches are what? You come, you commit to us, we help you grow as a player and student because these are students, even though the money that they're throwing to these kids is mental. And you get the chance to be on national, like not national TV, but be on
Yeah.
ESPN Plus
ESPN
and
Plus.
play against ACC teams and make a name for yourself. And the number 9 for them just went to New Hampshire, so it's like it's
Yeah. And
work.
Max
Like
Fisher went to UNC. So
yeah, it's
like
like
guys
these
are going
people.
out of that
But
program.
then if this happens, that would not really be the case because a Super League team wouldn't want a transfer because they aren't proven against the top teams, whereas those
Yeah.
two prove themselves against the top teams.
Well, and then even I know obviously outgoing transfers happen all the time, but like I mean the pressure would probably be on even more, which I'm not adverse to pressure. Like I think a big or I'm a big proponent of sink or swim. Like give people an opportunity if they show progress or succeed, then fantastic. If not, we can figure out what we need to work on. But long term, if you're in this power conference and you're just not producing, you just got to go because these teams are always going to be looking for new players because like, and this is the other thing. I mean, me and you, we've heard stories from players about coaches that, you know, really are only successful maybe because of like their recruiting classes.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like how do some programs sustain success in that type of format where they might get exposed
yeah,
against
the top
highly
teams.
funded, well coached programs?
Mm,
Because I mean, we'll show kind of where players have gone
mm,
recently or what programs produce the most players from the professional standpoint. So, I mean,
yeah,
obviously, there's that's one of my things I admire about the college game. I do think that they have some of the best coaches in this country.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, imagine being in the Super League and 3 years in, and you're coming in second to last or last place for
yeah,
the three first years. It's like,
yeah.
are you doing your players a benefit
And I do,
or
yeah. I think like recruiting is part of the game. It's always been, but especially now with the NRL and all that. Like I respect coaches that get the best recruiting classes because it's difficult because they're competing against every school now with benefits of, hey, you come here, we can give you this month and get you connected with this. Like, so it's arguably just as important as the tactics. Of course, at the end of the day, you would hope that the tactics and the way a team plays soccer wins them the game, you know? But we've also seen that that's not the case when it's just one or two players that they recruited just saves them, you know? But with this Super League, it sounds really cool. Like, don't get me wrong. Like being able to watch the best teams play against each other. But some of the best teams wouldn't even be considered in this league. And I think we keep on going back to that. But you know, you like college football has like the FBS and the FCS. So is that what they're thinking about doing, where they just have the 40 or 50 teams and divide that by 2 because of the distances and travel, and then everyone else is just like Division 1, but not really, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
considered it, but it's different.
Yeah.
And I remember the Stanford head coach, was talking about, like, they do homework on the plane, on the bus, in the hotel because, like, they're missing so much school. So let's say they don't divide it into 2, like West Coast, East Coast, whatever, and a team has to fly on a Sunday, have a match day -1 on Monday, play Tuesday, fly out Wednesday, get back home Thursday, like Wednesday night, train Thursday, but then have a game Saturday, so they fly Friday. They're not going to, like, they're going to 1 class that week. And
Yeah.
at the
But
end of the day, like, it is student athlete. And then again, like, when I was like, student athlete, I just wanted to be an athlete. So now, like, I'm sound like an old head talking about it. But I'm just like kind of like, I still had to go to class. So I'm coming kind of like, I'm playing devil's advocate where it's like, okay, how do you manage that workload and the classroom load,
yeah, well, don't worry, Dylan. You're not gonna appear as like the Landon Donovan versus Christian Pulisic type.
No, that's wild. That's a whole nother episode. Like, but that sums up the US soccer, that
Yeah.
like legends are beefing with now supposedly like what's supposed to be like, the best players we have, and parents are complaining about it on like documentaries, and it's like, I just want to see us win and do well and like support each other, man. Like, this is just crazy.
Yeah.
I'm checking Twitter
Yeah.
every day, and it's like, you
Yeah.
know,
You know what my ring says? ELE. Everybody love everybody.
yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy.
That's a super or semi-pro quote for all the movie watchers out there. I think maybe we can shift to. I found it to be a well done article um, to produce talking points and thinking about stuff because we'll agree as we go through it. We'll obviously agree with some things, and then we can maybe disagree or provide a little bit more clarity on it. But let me bring up this article and we can kind of go through it. All right. Add it to stage here. So Michael Annan. Yeah. So titled "Future of Soccer in the United States." Try to read while we go here. I think one of the big things is like, and toward the end when we talk about the professional end to like kind of the goal of a lot of college soccer players. We can talk a little bit more about the NIL collectives and what that is looking like kind of in its early stages. Yeah, concerns about NCAA's ability to provide oversight because they just cover every sport. So I think that's having a little bit of advisement from, or at least a relationship with U.S. soccer could be helpful. Yeah. Unlike other countries where structured development pathways exist for youth academies to professional leagues, USL lacks a semi-professional system that bridges the gap. College soccer remains one of the only avenues for player development post academy, which is fairly true. Yeah. There's no non-league here like over in England, and we'll talk about the comparisons between the US and England because I think a lot of people are most familiar with just because it's been the longest on TV over here. But yeah, we don't have the non-league where if you're bounced out of the academy or you graduate from an academy and you don't have a team or you don't pick up a pro contract, you can go to a non-league team. And we've seen plenty of players come out of the non-league in England and go up to even the national team in England, like Jamie Vardy. Mikel Antonio was non-league. There's a long list of those guys. So we don't really have that. I think when guys run out eligibility, sometimes they'll tend to try USL League 2 for a year just to try to keep on the path towards their pro
That's
ambition.
only
But
3 months, so that's so difficult too. So it's like
yeah,
then you're training by yourself, and it's like it's kind of no man's land, which is difficult.
yeah. I mean, the numbers here, it's like it gets further and further shrunk
Yeah,
down,
it's
like
crazy.
from the very beginning where kids are playing growing up to the ones who actually turn professional around here. And does it make sense to show the comparison right now of like US and
Yeah, we
England?
can show it now, then we
Like,
show it again when we talk
I
about it.
guess, like, yeah, because it's a topic that'll keep coming up. But agree with it or not, um, like, we only technically have 70, and I'm not counting, like, NISA and, I don't know, the leagues or the league for clubs or whatever the new one's called. But of the major leagues, like, I know I have in there MLS Next Pro is 2 teams because, I mean, all the other ones are affiliated with MLS clubs, just as, you know, Premier League and championship clubs have second teams. That's basically the second team for the first team.
It's an academy,
So,
like,
yeah, like I didn't feel like counting that as 32 teams. Um and for the English pyramid, not even counting like National League North and South or the regional team or leagues that are probably more considered non-league, because I looked at how much money a National League player typically gets, but 116 teams for we have, and yes, obviously we have a massive population compared to England, and obviously in both countries not everyone's playing soccer, but if you look at the ratio, if you were to do maybe ratios, and obviously we have other sports that are super popular here, but yeah, 6 times the population, and we have, like, around half the teams, like, and obviously more are coming, but even in college, it's like, okay, they play their whole college career, and there's a aspect in here or in the article where it's like, I'll bring it back up, um, where it's like, well, so many players slip through the cracks, and it's like, yeah, I agree, players slip through the cracks all the time, but like, is it because, or
is
it's
it
like
because of the
looking at,
college setup or the next step of, like, the
yeah,
pro?
there's just nowhere for them to go. Um, yeah, I'll try to find it, but I
I think
do
that's
want to point out,
like I think that the graph or, like, the numbers show how if going back to the Super League or even extending this season more, is that gonna produce more pros if these leagues, League One, Championship, if they don't have the infrastructure needed to identify these players?
yeah,
And I
and
think
there's always a timeline too. Like,
yeah,
uh, kids can't stay in college forever, so they have to, even if the power conference exists or whatever, and you're paying them better than MLS Next Pro, which we're already seeing on NIL deals. It's like they aren't going to be 30-year-old college students still
yeah,
going to school, like playing for the team because they're a valuable asset to the team. They
and I
have a window,
yeah.
and once that window closes, they have to go somewhere.
Yeah, and I think like you wrote an article when I was still in school, and we talked about it about like how college has developed multiple pros and like good players.
Yeah, I think that was
So
like
like
a 10,000 word thing.
yeah,
It's on my Substack. I moved it over there from my website, but yeah, it's
but it's
crazy
like
how many players go and play.
so it's like I do agree players fall through the cracks, but I think we as a US soccer like world and soccer hub, they more players fall through the cracks through the college game than we want. And I don't think it's because, and I'm not saying their argument is we make this change and more players are going to go pro and not fall through the crack. But from our perspective in talking about it, just this season alone, this past season, there's multiple players still going on trial. And like they go in hoping to spend a week, then maybe 2 weeks to get signed. But some of these clubs know they don't even have the budget to sign them. And they just want them to use them as practice players.
Yeah.
And it's still a good experience for them. But if they don't know that, then that just messes with the head. And what if those players on trial were identified early on in the season from a club that fits the game model and what they're looking for in that specific position, you know?
Yeah.
And I know we're going to get to this later, but it's like you can argue where, we don't have enough teams, number one, but number two, we don't have the right system in place within these teams that have the budget to have a couple scouts or an analysis guy or whatever is needed. So the process isn't like, let's wait to see who gets drafted to go to combine, then wait to see who gets cut from there to go on trial. And then 2 weeks left in preseason, we have these 10 guys coming in that didn't make it from the combine, when in reality, they could have had 50, 60 players who had really good college careers potentially ready to sign a deal.
Yeah. And I think I mean, what you just said is basically this paragraph. It's like, it's not only regions, but even certain teams don't have elite level coaching, scouting networks, even in professional environments, because in professional environments, you have like the best ones I've seen have multiple scouts that are in office every day. They have video guys who are making highlight videos and providing it to the scouts. There's scouting meetings where a few players are presented to like the sporting director, and they go out and they're making phone calls to agents and really pursuing the players that they want. And then it gets even down to the worst, or probably the worst case scenario. It's like some coach is just sitting there and being like, I like that guy, I want him. Or a trusted agent is like, or somebody that they've worked with in the past who is just trying to make money off of player movement, who may or may not know anything about his own player, or stuff like that. And it's like, hey, I have this player that you might want. Oh yeah, send him over. And then he's just like on the team. And it's like, so your coaches and agents are doing your scouting, and like you're wondering why you're not developing like players as assets to the club and developing their career and helping them get better opportunities. Um, but again, like it goes into, well, you can't hire scouts because you can't even pay your own players. Like there's been some stories of some like USL League One teams that missed like a month or two of paychecks to a couple players or something like that. And obviously they got their money eventually, but and
it
you
goes,
hear that all over the world, like
yeah.
clubs that I think fans don't understand it because they're too busy watching, especially in MLS. Like these fans are just sitting around thinking that these ownership groups, it's like FIFA, it's so easy. Just I played FIFA with Chicago Fire and I signed Ronaldo. Like, come on, like why can't you guys do that? And it's like because we have to be financially stable.
Yeah.
Because if the league is in financial shambles, this isn't like Barcelona where they're going to get bailed out by the government uh, to maintain operation. It's like that team doesn't exist anymore. So the finances are important.
Yeah, and they need a budget. And like, of course, like we're talking about this because there's not systems in place for this to happen, for like teams not panic and bring a bunch of players in knowing they probably won't sign any, and maybe not even knowing who these players are, because we've seen it where it's like an agent's like, hey, we have 3 kids coming to train with this League One team or championship teams, and the coach doesn't even know they're coming. Or maybe he does, but doesn't really know much about them. And like, yes, I do think give the players a chance, but I'm saying if there's a system or a background with a staff member or a scout or two where it's like, hey, this is the rundown on this player. We've been watching him for this long. We have these notes. take a look, see what can happen. Now, don't do that if you don't have, if you know you can't make it work. But then it goes back to our kind of conversation, what we're going to talk about tonight, where it's like, so let's say the Super League develops more pros and puts more eyes on them. Can that even happen if these teams still function the way they do in regards to the budget and their ability to find talent? Because the finding of talent is just word of mouth. And at the end of the day, it's a business. Like, it's who you know. But
Yeah.
it's like that can only get you so far, and it's going to stunt your development at a certain point.
Yeah.
You know what I
Because
mean?
even like around the draft time, like I've probably mentioned this before, but like to assume that creating a super league is like gonna bring more eyes, it's still gonna be on the MLS teams to actually watch the games, because the case is like some teams actually do take it seriously. They're trying to like develop these players, and then some are literally calling up a college coach on the night before the draft saying, "Hey, do you have anybody who wouldn't ruin a training session?"
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we'll probably take him then. It's like they have no clue,
And
and they just call upon like their buddies and ask.
like, then again, like, that's not fair. But then again, like, I can't blame them because they don't have people in place to do that job. But also too, like with the
This
draft.
club does.
Yeah, no, what Orlando City is a great example. Look at DK, McGuire, then like Gerbey now. It's like
Yeah,
they've
Shaq is
obviously,
doing well.
like, they've done their research, I think, because you don't really, it's not a fluke to go 3 for 3 as of now. Like, Gerbey continues on, right? And like he
Yeah,
looks like he's gonna, but it's like
that's who I'm
obvious,
wearing, by the way, everybody.
yeah,
Dranger Bay is back.
like obviously there's something in place that Orlando is doing that's working. Whether it's watching games, having a list before the season, having a couple people watching games, like it works. And
I think they're really good at projecting
yeah,
who
and I
could
think
hit the
that's,
next level.
I think that's going to be our big point. Where, like, we're not saying if you sign this college kid that he's going to bang in 20 goals if he's a number 9, right? Or he's going to be a lockdown defender as a right back. You want him to be solid, but if you can project him to develop and you can trust your coaching staff to develop him through training, games, video analysis, reflection, in 2-3 years' time, he could push on to championship, USL championship, or possibly
Yeah,
overseas with
go
the
abroad.
amount of players we have. And we see that more now. People go, like, teenagers or more well-known players who don't really go the college route are deciding to go the European route. And I'm not saying it's easier said than done, do not get me wrong, but there's definitely players there that could do that under the right circumstance.
Yeah, especially when like we do have. I mean, me and you, we see players all the time. We're like, man, that. So we'll say like these are the Americans that we're talking about. It's like we even have some Americans in this country that play a very Dutch style,
Yeah.
or where it's like, man, if that guy could just go to find a team in Belgium or the Netherlands, like that guy would really fit that style.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think, and that brings in the next topic of kind of the professionalism. So moving away from amateur, um, well, actually, we'll rewind because it is very short. Full calendar season, I'm all for it. That's good with me. If it works financially for a lot of the schools, or hopefully most of them can try to make it work. Spring seasons have gotten more popular, and they've been doing NCAA schools versus pro clubs all the time. So it's like during that spring season. So if they were to drag out that, space out the games more so people aren't blowing out their knees, um, I'm in favor of it. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think like you said, the amount of teams that are in spring seasons to play for trophies, to play that game, to play games that matter is crazy. And it's worth it. I mean, there's a stigma before these spring seasons of, like, oh, we'll play a pro team, a Division 2 team, maybe a 2D1 teams, and get better with training and just play these games, right? But that's now gone because so many coaches realize spring's a really good time to get ahead, especially with the transfers coming in for these schools to like let them get some game time before moving on to the summer. And I do feel like it's like it's, of course you can make the argument, well, if you do it with this sport, you have to do it with every sport, and like that, I do get that from an AD perspective or a school
Yeah,
perspective.
but football's never gonna extend
Yeah,
their season because that's in alignment already. It's just, I
yeah,
think, the case of aligning sport to sport,
yeah,
like
and
college to pro.
I
And
feel like
basketball is kinda similar already, like
yeah,
November to April, I guess, if you make the tournament, but
yeah, and I feel like the biggest, like, I think on the field it's great. I think, in the past teams have played pro clubs and beaten pro clubs, and of course those pro
oh,
clubs
yeah.
are made up of trialists and they're trying new things. But then again, if the pro, you would think the pro club should dominate somewhat. And I think, you know, like the athletic trainer, because a lot of these athletic trainers are the athletic trainer for multiple teams, not just the men's soccer team. It could be the women's soccer team too, or men's tennis or whatever it may be. So if they get the back end down in regards to finances, travel, staff, and like I know we're going to get into it, but like you also then have to pay your coaches more to make sure the quality is up there. And number two, they're able to live off it because some of them make the majority of the money during summertime off camp money. So it's, I think it's a great idea because basically spring is already a season. And I just feel like if they get the logistics down, it should be a no brainer. And like we said, Sasha's been talking about it since 2018. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, like
Yeah,
I
and
think
I
it's a good
think
idea.
the only thing, and we have talked about this offline, but it's like the only thing that would be a bummer is what happens to USL League 2. A lot of
Yeah.
the players wouldn't be playing. They'd be taking the summer off, which is fair, but it's sad to see because you
But
know
look at
how
the
much we're
Vermont. Look at
fans.
Vermont. Like
Yeah,
that Vermont team was made up of college players, bar two or three. And
yeah,
it's like ballad too. And I think you could argue that more scouts watch USL League Two than college games.
yeah.
And
Because
I
even
feel
like some of the ones that I've gone to, there's been other people than just me taking notes.
yeah,
So I'm
and
like, I wonder who that guy is. But
it's
yeah,
like League Two is great because there's been players that have gone asked to go come train or do this or do that, and it's like, coaches are definitely not going to let your player train. Let's be honest, because injury and they want to rest and recover. But then again, like the Ballard and the Culture and the Vermont and the Asheville's and the McMinneapolis, like all these teams, like that goes away. If you think that goes away, or it's going to be made up of older players who are still trying to go pro, but it's not going to be that feeling of like, oh, these are college kids who are really trying to make it.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, that was a little longer than I want, or well, not that I wanted, but the quick pit stop because obviously the calendar was like the biggest headline news of what this new model looks like, regardless of if there's a power conference or not. That's been kind of the main bullet point. The other is around professionalism. It's already creeped in with NIL, but for me, with this player pool, I'm completely fine with NIL. And I think the view of being viewed as professional would be helpful to the players, mainly when you look at or when other teams abroad are looking at that player pool. Because obviously they're like the Scottish League has taken in some guys directly from uh, Norway, like Joe Bell from Virginia, just skipped the draft entirely and went overseas. I think Dante Plavara did the same thing.
Yeah,
Um, and then some of these guys that are international, they go back to their home country, and like Scott Vatney
yeah,
and Saku Heiskanen, and they're playing first team top tier, and they're not only playing well and playing often, but they're making like team of the match week and stuff like that. So I mean, everyone knows this, but uh, I'm like the biggest cheerleader when it comes to this player pool and what I think their ability is now and can be in those like year 1, 2, and 5 and what they can grow into. And we talk about it all the time. It's all about like recognizing potential, what you can add into their game, how to develop them, and and I've heard it from my friends in pro scouting. It's like you want to take a player and make him into a first team
Yeah.
asset, and there's a market value on them now. If you're going into or taking players in from college and you don't have that mindset, it's like a waste of an investment. But anyway,
I think, like you said, I like the payment for these players because I feel like if these players do try to go overseas because it's amateur in the college, these foreign teams might not know how good the quality actually is.
yeah,
Like kind of what you talked about. So I feel like, like understanding that some of these players are making more money than some of these like pro players are making. Some of these
yeah,
players got deals, but like they got drafted or they were going to sign pro, and these schools wanted to keep them with these big time deals, like good money, and it's like like I don't blame players for wanting to stay if they maybe get an offer from a League One or championship team that's league minimum, and it's like not really feasible. Like you might have to work
yeah,
another job or something a part time.
yeah,
So I think it's great, and also it's the way college sports is now. It's like you see these basketball players and football players making 2 million a season, getting
yeah,
free cars, and it's like you either have to get with the program if you're able to, or you get left behind. And of course, that's out of some control in regards to some schools. But if you're a big school and you want to compete, you can throw some money around, and we've seen it firsthand when it was first coming.
yeah. Yeah, and like the perspective, and this is for the players, the perspective abroad that I've heard from agents that are pitching you guys out there to teams abroad, the awareness outside of this country on what college soccer is, and this is maybe a concern or something to think about. It's like, even if these guys are paid, I mean, technically, if you're on scholarship and you're, getting free housing, free education, a lot of free meals and stuff like that. It's like, I mean, if you put the dollar figure on that, you're technically being paid. So it's like the awareness of breaking away from, oh, it's an amateur, oh, it's a school, like, oh, no thanks. Like, as if like some teams outside of this country only take a player seriously if they've been paid before.
Yeah.
And you know, I personally think that's not the best way to scout, especially when like, God, how many lists exist of all the guys that have passed through college that have gone on to huge things. And even
And
in recent times, it's like Bombito,
mhm.
Alistair Johnson. And it's
and
like,
you can argue that's what teams do overseas, but teams here in the States only sign players if they played a season or two
yeah,
in like championship or League One, or they've had their pro experience. So I feel like, you know, we're a long way to go in regards to being respected and everyone being on the same page of what college soccer is.
yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of my big thing is like, even if you take on more and more of a professionalized environment and players are getting paid, still I think there needs to be some PR work done, I guess,
Yeah.
on explaining what exactly this player pool is. And it's basically a U23 league.
Yeah.
And, you know, everywhere else in the world, they are highly scouting those leagues within their own countries and within their own continent. And it's like, just because it's a school doesn't mean that they're not highly talented players, and these players aren't coming from top academies all around the world within our own country, highly decorated in terms of accolades and all that. Like, these kids have put in a ton of work, and
Like what
like,
other like what other league has the player pool and diversity. Yeah, that's like exactly like MLS Next Pro is, you know, people have called it a glorified academy, still super talented players, but it's for the
Yeah.
academy and the pipeline to develop those players. So
Yeah, it's
they should be doing
basically
that.
a U19 league.
Yeah, and
I
it's
wouldn't
like,
even say it's a U23 league because, again, for these college guys that get drafted and get stowed away on not every club. Some clubs are fantastic with um, elevating their college guys once they get up to the speed of the pro game. But how many times do we have like a 22-year-old who was an amazing player in college sitting the bench for a 16-year-old?
and
Because you're gonna make more money off the 16-year-old. Like, what if PSV Eindhoven scouts our team
yeah,
and finds that 16-year-old? We're gonna make bank.
and you can't,
It's like, "Oh, we're not
yeah,
gonna give the opportunity to the 22, 23-year-old that we drafted, even if he also has really good potential, but
yeah,
it's
and
a
like I don't,
6-year gap."
yeah, and I don't fault the teams doing that because it's like they want the homegrown, right?
Yeah,
But it's the fact that like don't even draft the kid then. Like if you know like he's gonna come to preseason with you just to do it because you drafted the guy,
yeah,
then you're gonna send him to the second team and he might get some minutes and might play. But you know, no matter how well he performs, there's a strong likelihood that he's gonna be behind a teenager because the potential of the teenager. I get it, but also that's why MLS Next Pro is there for that development.
yeah,
And we've seen MLS Next Pro kids commit to colleges because they're getting paid good money. And I feel like, yeah, it's like if college soccer was called like the like MLS U23 league or like some type of cool name, I'm convinced the number of players to go pro would be more. I know like that's kind of a joke, but it's like I don't think it's taken seriously because it's like college sports and it's like a student athlete. When in regards, like in reality, it's like look at the Marshall team that won a national championship. I'm pretty sure like 80% of that team's pro, and they had international players that played in the Europa League, Youth League. They have
yeah,
players that are ballers, and it's only getting more talented, this pool. So it's
yeah,
like if there were scouts, there's so many talented players to, and like that's on them to do the due diligence and find those players, but it's in front of you if you really look.
yeah, 100%. I mean, even this is something that I was gonna say earlier, but, like, shout out to Ricky Lewis. He doesn't know us, by the way.
He's a good
But
fan
it's
though.
like
Okay, another
yeah,
fan.
it's just like teams like Georgia Southern who had, um, Ricky Lewis, Harvey, like, Ricky's still with Georgia Southern, but it's like outside of the power conference, it's like, yeah, you'd still find those players because 'cause they're gonna be playing games, but it's like talk about players slipping through the cracks. It's like who's watching Georgia Southern and if this mega conference exists. But,
Exactly.
you
And
know,
like that's a point.
he does show up on the radar when that team goes and plays a ACC school and everyone's tuned in and like, who the heck is that guy?
Or
Maybe we need to watch more of his games.
Charles from Central Arkansas. He did
Yeah,
very well at Wake Forest. And I think Central Arkansas made the final for the conference against UNF. But it's like, if that game doesn't happen, who knows? You know,
yeah,
because like one game can put you on the map as a team and also as a player.
100%. That was a good way to round out that point. Like, give these guys a chance to showcase themselves.
It's
If
like
they
March
got
Madness.
1 or 2 games a year, if they're a mid-major or even smaller school than that, it's
Yeah.
like especially within the conference, there's always gonna be teams within conferences that are national contenders. So
Hmm.
you're at least gonna get 2 games in the conference, and then you
Yeah.
have a couple out of conference games. That's what really gets some attention on these guys. I think the last point in terms of money, um, that I have is, like, NIL collectives, donors, businesses, whoever's feeding that money machine, if a lot of these changes, like, one of the main goals is to help the player pathway to pro, why not invest in, like, an actual pro team? Or call
Yeah.
up your buddies who are joining this NIL collective to your alma mater and be like, "Why don't we just start a pro team?"
Yeah.
because that would actually have more of a legacy and a future than having to keep paying and paying and paying. And for, yeah, you want your college program and your alma mater to do well, but like, I don't know. That's just my opinion.
But
Like,
that's a fair point. Like if these kids are making good money, right, in 3 years or 2 years, and then but if there's not scouts or an infrastructure in place for these kids to go to the next level, they're going to be making so much less when it's time to play pro. And of
yeah,
course, you don't like you want to be self sufficient, but you don't play for the money. You play because you love the game. But imagine going from a big school with NRL and you're making good money and you're killing it to being like, oh shoot, like
now I'm
time
eating
to like time,
PBJs.
yeah, like eating PBJs and going on LinkedIn trying to find a part time job. Like that's just how it is. But I wish it wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I don't even think there's too many players out there who would be against like, oh, I'll just take 100,000. Like, that's okay money to live off of. At least I wouldn't need a roommate. Like, half these guys like 24 years old
Having like
making,
3 or 4 roommates.
yeah, and it's like, I mean, we'll get into some of the
And we're not
the
saying every
rumored
college
offers.
we're not
Yeah.
like saying college kids should be getting paid 100K. We're saying that
Well, yeah, I'm saying in the pro,
yeah,
like
oh yeah,
when they
exactly.
leave university, they shouldn't be taking a pay decrease to keep playing the game.
Yeah,
That's kind of the,
ideally
yeah.
it's in place where there's not a drastic change, like Mark was saying. In play, it's like a smooth transition because you were getting paid in college, but you're also getting watched and looked at by multiple teams that see fitting the system. Then boom, couple phone calls and you're good. It's not like I'm graduating and for 6 months I have no idea what's going on and I'm just going where my agent sends me to teams I don't even know I'm going. But let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Gray has another um, point about. I mean, just even with the point I want to make, kind of building off of this, is like all divisions underneath Division One, like the existing infrastructure does a good job of like merit based upward transfers
Mm-hmm.
that these guys get noticed, go from JUCO, NAIA, uh, the divisions up to like one kid went to my alma mater, which is D3, went to Syracuse, got drafted to Orlando. And it's like, that's crazy. A crazy story. I mean, obviously, Bombito did
Yeah.
a similar path. And it's
I know
like,
Poku from Syracuse too. From
yeah,
From Lindsay College or like Lindsay Sydney
Lindsey
that
Wilson.
yeah Lindsay Wilson to Syracuse to like first
Yeah.
division and I don't know the country, but it's like it's there's so like that you can argue that those teams are better than some the majority of D1 teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's shout out Gray though. He's spitting facts.
Yeah. We've never met in person, but I don't even
Yeah,
know if that's I
haven't.
don't even know if that's his actual name or if it's just like a
But he's one
nickname
that
now,
always
but I
shows
don't know.
love and like he says good
Yeah.
points. So fair play.
Well, speaking of love, our boy Owen O'Malley
He has to
gave
change
a
that bio picture.
gave
Let's
a
be honest.
see it again.
No.
And just recapping very early on, Jose, always a fan of the show. They're about to go live, I believe, at 9 covering Philadelphia Union. But yeah, I mean, FC. Well, I just wanted to insert this. More shout outs to my home region of Buffalo, but like even FC Buffalo is taking investors. Like one of the guys I work with at M&T Bank, he's a big soccer guy, fellow Newcastle guy. He was like, "Oh, dude, like I just became an investor of FC Buffalo." I'm like super excited about it. Like those are the type of guys I'm talking about. It's like
Yeah.
if you have this money to help grow the game in the US, it's like be a part of an upcoming team like
Look at Vermont, like the 4 best friends that just wanted to do it.
I don't know if he wants me to share it, but yeah, our boy John Mahoney, what a guy.
That dude is out of that, man. That's some government stuff right there. I'm
Yeah.
playing.
No, but like there's so many cool club cultures out there and you know, like the Vermonts out there that have like built stuff from scratch to and those type of guys probably also donate to Vermont,
Yeah.
like the school. So it's like start thinking about the longevity of or how to really make an impact. And obviously, college soccer has a major impact on US soccer as a whole, but also more pro opportunities help in that regard, arguably more so
Yeah,
because, yeah, I don't know. And for anyone who's wondering, that is his real name. Oh, another Carolina guy. Beautiful place, Charleston.
that's a nice place.
Um, I don't think we need to like get into. I could have swore I saw an article that was talking about like transfer fees for college players if like they moved into it. I I'm not. We won't spend time talking about
We
stuff
don't
that
have to
I.
out any teams. It's
Well, I
fine.
just can't find. I just couldn't find it. I
It's
don't know
definitely
if I
going
was
on though, so like that's all that
dreaming
we,
it.
yeah,
I mean, we definitely see. I don't even know if it's like we don't know behind the scenes, but like there's been plenty of examples just this offseason where, you know, two teams basically are just swapping players.
yeah,
Um, who knows if that was pre talked about or what, but I mean, really anything could happen. Names pop up in the transfer portal and you just go for the guys that you need. Um, going through roadblocks. We covered a lot of them.
yeah. We did. To be fair,
Um, so I think maybe trying to think if we want to go into.
we can talk about
Do we want to
gate.
do the roster builds first or the player pathway?
Let's do the roster build, and from that we can explain how like these players can continue on and the
Yeah,
gatekeeping within that.
yeah. Um, so this is something that I put together. The numbers might not be exactly accurate. Like I had to basically go through player by player. Like some I know off the top of my head, like where they came from, um, but if you want, if you ever missed this on my actual Twitter account, and you're wondering who in the MLS roster or the MLS pool actually has come through college. So almost 30% of the players had played at some point in college. Um, and most of it's like half of if a guy on a roster is American, half of that player pool probably played at college.
Yeah,
And then even smaller because that homegrown players chart or the little pie chart there, um, that's just kind of even showing already the split between guys going straight into pro contracts versus, either going a year or having to sit there for 4 years while the club makes a decision, which we'll talk about the pitfalls of or ways to improve. Um, very, very small font, but if you're wondering which schools have produced the most current players, Georgetown, Wake Forest, Indiana, Maryland, Duke, Stanford, Akron, North Carolina, UCLA, Cal Berkeley, Virginia, and Washington. So a lot of the top programs, obviously. Those are probably a lot of the teams that you'd see in this potential breakoff conference. But um, yeah, those top 10 alone account for roughly 40% of the players um, with collegiate experience. So that's good odds if you go there. Um, kind of the distribution on the map too. Then for USL, so more likely you'll find former college players in USL, but we'll talk about the player pathway after this. But um, over half the league has some sort of MLS experience as well.
yeah.
So, um, so yeah, I mean, not much else to say, I guess.
No, yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a good grasp and kind of show. Even the list of colleges for USL a little bit different in regards to schools and
Yeah,
all.
like Pitt, Charlotte, Clemson, Creighton,
The
Akron
Pittsburgh,
again.
the Pittsburgh Riverhounds and Pittsburgh University of Pittsburgh
Yeah,
pipeline is crazy. There's always like 2 or 3 every year, I feel like.
yeah, especially well, we talked about that team. I mean, there's just so much talent on that team, like this year and last
Yeah.
year. So more to come for sure. Um, you know, we'll move into kind of the gatekeeping. I have it in here as gateway, um, because it's like you have to pass through these to even get to the professional route. So the top one is basically what happens right now. So your youth academies go into NCAA, USL League Two, and MPSL are the summer leagues. And again, there's more leagues, but we're talking about the most popular ones. And even MPSL is starting to fade away a little bit because some of their top teams have moved into USL League Two. But you can either go, well, we're seeing a lot of guys go MLS Next Academy straight to a homegrown contract and either getting put on the next pro team or straight to the MLS first team deal.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go to college, the only ways into MLS are through the super draft, or if you're out of eligibility, the free agency path is open tryouts, trials, and again, like advice, make sure that, well, I don't know if you can find out, before I go to XYZ club, do they even have money to sign me if I do well? Because
Yeah.
I can't be wasting my time sitting here training for 2 weeks or a month and hey, come into the office. Yeah, so we're looking at the budget and we just don't have the money. It's like, oh, how long did you know that?
Yeah. And so many
uh,
people get caught up in that, and then it's a rat race because now you're calling an agent if you even have an agent that picks up your calls, you know what I mean? And then from there,
yeah,
you're trying to find another team, but then it's like, and then again, you have to take it with a grain of salt because you can argue if you were good enough, you would have gone signed. But then again, it could be true. They could not want you. They could be waiting for the next kid who just got dropped from the MLS preseason who went to the combine. So there's a bunch of different situations, but that happens a lot more than it should in regards to like he keeps the level high, so let's keep him around and tell him in 2 weeks that we don't need him. You know?
yeah. Um, yeah, actually, well, I have another graphic that I can bring in here. Um, the below graphic is, I mean, we might as well talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Um, this is kind of, I didn't show Dylan this before the episode, but these were my thoughts on how to improve upon the pro opportunities for players, because it's like, if all of these rumors are like one of the primary objectives is to help the player pathway, then the biggest obstacles are homegrown rights that linger too long on players. Like if quite a few teams would love to have a particular player that their homegrown rights are stuck on a team, then they just have to wait. The player has to wait for the club to make a decision. Some guys even like 2 weeks before the draft don't even know where they stand with the club that has their homegrown rights.
Mm-hmm.
And or they have an amazing sophomore junior season and they're on everybody's watch list for for a few years now. Teams want them. They know they have that he fits their style, but they don't even want to bother with him because they don't want to have to pay the to release the rights or get his rights released. So like these guys are just stuck in place for maybe even sometimes for a team that they didn't even play for since 16.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, in my opinion, I do know why they exist because these clubs do put a lot of time and money and resources into training them through the academy. But it's like at some point, well before they're 23 and a grad student, a decision's got to be made because you're holding up their future and opportunities where they're actually wanted and going to be valued and developed. And if that's the whole goal, you got to get these kids free. Um, so whether that looks like, on their 20th birthday, 21st birthday, you got to make a decision. Do you want them or not? And it would probably look more like 21 now that I think about it more, but originally I put 20. But after 3 years of college, if you still don't know if you want the player, then you don't want the player. Let them
Well,
go.
yeah, like, I think you said it best, like, there has to be a timeline where a decision has to be made. Because, like you said, there's probably multiple players that have had amazing freshman, sophomore, or even junior seasons, and they don't even know where their rights are, and they could have multiple MLS clubs wanting them, but then they pass because of behind the scenes situations with like a payment or whatnot. But if he's a junior and that club still has his rights, but still wants to wait until he graduates just to end up be putting on the second team when they could have left after sophomore year to a team that wants to invest more in that player, but they don't, that's like a dream situation now gone for that kid, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, if they attach like a dollar figure for every year they're in an academy, so be it. But like, I don't know. That kind of is something I've always struggled with. But I think I even struggle more with, uh, and it's kind of funny because I've been covering the draft for 2 or 3 years now, more like publicly. But it's like how many issues I have with the draft now, especially the more and more stories year after year that I hear. It's like, I mean, I hadn't come up with a formal list that I have where it's like, yeah, those 10 teams, you don't want to go there. You hope that your name doesn't get picked by one of those teams because you know that they don't really care about you. And it's like, that's a harsh reality where some of these guys, it's like supposed to be an exciting day. But I think the allure of the draft has kind of gone away because a lot of these guys have seen their friends get drafted and then get stuck in the same situation as a guy that,
Didn't even get drafted and like
yeah,
I had a good agent and had a good connection. It's like I think back in the day it was like the cloud and the pictures and the repost on Instagram, right? It's really cool. But then check with those people a month or two later and they're trialing now with championship and League One teams. Not that's a bad thing, like that's still a dream
yeah,
situation to be in, but it's I think people think, "Oh, time for their first team, time to chill," and it's like, no, no, like you're going in as a nobody. You're lucky if the coach actually really knows you, and even then, after 1 or 2 practices, even if you're okay, they're gonna probably look to sign some international teenager or 20, 23-year-old from overseas because that's the trend nowadays.
yeah.
As like,
And
I think the Messi influence with, like, the South American players and even Scandinavian players coming over, like, that's just the way MLS is heading towards now. But it kinda goes back, like, if US Soccer wants to develop college, you gotta start picking these Americans then through college or internationals through college, but through that system if you wanna, like, be considered like a pipeline to them, you know?
yeah. And like on the topic of some teams are very good, obviously, um, at developing guys and they value them and they have a plan for them as they come into the team. There's other ones that are like reluctantly drafting somebody. And it's like, you're going to like, let's see if I can find the note that I had. It's like, if you aren't thrilled on the player that you're drafting, the kid is thrilled to be there.
Yeah.
And then, shouldn't the player be able to go like to a team that actually wants him and will value him and, show him the ropes, get him up to speed on how to be a pro and how to adapt to the pro speed. And it's like the whole point of getting rid of the draft on this graphic is like while they're in college, if you have these great seasons and you're putting up like great performances time and again, if any given team can call you up and be at the end of a season, be like, hey, we've been watching you for the past year or two. We really think that you could be a huge asset to this club. Like, we want to kind of explore a contract option. And then, like, you maybe some other clubs are making offers. Like sometimes like kids get drafted, they're like they play a certain position and like, well, we see you more as a right back. And it's like, well, I've never played right back. And it's like, yeah, I mean, these guys can learn, but it's like if you
Why you
have
got
more of
picked
an
in the first
open,
place.
yeah, if you have more of an open availability to be like, okay, well, Red Bulls wants me to play right back, but Minnesota wants me in my natural center midfield position. It's
Yeah.
like
And
I want to. My future, I think, is more of a or any of the coaches or the people who are helping advise and weigh the pros and cons of some of the offers. It's like the system makes more sense for you if you went to Nashville actually, and then they like, yeah, let's go, and the team's like excited because they got their guy.
I think
And
what you're saying is spot on because it also makes these teams, whether it's MLS, Championship, League One, do the due diligence. Or it's not, they're not just going to check a list and be like, let's just pick these three kids. Let me just
yeah,
call my friend who's a coach. Who should I get? We've done the research, we've done the metric that they have that ability through whatever software, and this player fits. Like I think we're behind in regards to like international teams because on Twitter I follow these like independent scouts or even people who used to work in high leagues, right? And they've done like case studies and examples of a scout on a certain player. And it's like 20 pages. And the amount of in-depth knowledge is crazy. But they don't leave a page unturned. But that's why it's usually spot on and they back who they want. I'm not saying these teams are going to be able to do that, but if they can get half of that and have like a good foundation of who they're bringing in, the likelihood of developing that player and then passing that player on top of helping that team win and maybe push, like, is probably more likely, I feel like.
yeah, and I think the teams that will and can do it well will be rewarded for it. And if
Yeah.
not, and if you don't feel like without the draft, it's like, well, there's no draft. Like, I won't even care anymore. It's like, well, then tough business if you're getting ran all over by college players. So it's like, you know, maybe you should try a little harder.
Just like,
It's
and
not
it's
that
not even
hard.
like, it's just like, it's like, just like designate something like, again, but it goes back, like they can barely pay the players and coaches where it's like, ideally, if like all this money getting put into the Super League, it's say you could possibly argue that that money should be invested into the lower pro leagues or even in the MLS to have more of a staff to find these players rather than putting it into the NCAA. Now, I'm like, there's not a wrong answer or right answer, but I think it's a fair point to bring up, right? It's like, what's the best avenue to put the money in? Do you put the money in the NCAA and make that Super League and more maybe the best talents or whatever the best matchups, or do you put it in more of the US soccer system and really get a methodology and a system in place where each team has a staff of how many people you need to have a list of players you want each year? And like we said, like the 3 or 5 college players per pro team each year at least for a preseason if you've done your due diligence and done your homework. That should be at least a non-negotiable if you watch the college games and know what you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think removing that, having the movement for pretty much anyone who wants you, if you're ready to sign a contract, go ahead and do it. Like, and then let's say you graduate from college and there's no pro deal yet, but you're still hungry to do so. Maybe the USL League 2 kind of turns into that non-league that's
Yeah.
currently missing from our ecosystem.
And it goes
Because,
a year round, the kind of
yeah,
vibe.
like, because guys, I mean, Owen was in the chat. Mo Williams, I thought was amazing. Obviously, he made his regional team or whatever they call it for. But some of these guys that are, well, and Willie Cardona, it's like the guys that just graduated still don't have the pro opportunity yet, but still want to pursue it. Like, that's a home for them.
Mm-hmm.
And while they continue to try to earn trials and stuff like that, but if that was kind of seen as that, obviously, I don't think you're having 144 teams anymore.
Yeah.
But you know, um, there, maybe there's some other way of fashioning that league, but to preserve the teams that are there, but also make sure the quality is still good. And then, is there anything else in this? Talked about a lot of that. Yeah, and then, well, even like it even for like the USL Championship and League One recruitment, I feel like, I mean, obviously there's a difference in staff when it comes to MLS clubs that have several scouts, and then USL Championship are more so asking for interns
Yeah.
that the club doesn't even listen to anyway. So it's like, I don't know. I feel like they would benefit a lot more from, but then again, who knows? Because I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but it's almost as if the USL leagues rely on almost an MLS litmus test of, oh, that player got drafted. Oh, he went to preseason. Oh, he didn't work out. Well, at least the scouting department took a chance on him. Like, the likelihood of a USL club signing a guy straight out of college without passing by that MLS litmus test, like obviously like Bradley Sample and um, Pop Mar. Obviously, he's the maybe as a fan, I wish that maybe some more of those deals would pop up, like where a USL club would be like, you know, if you're uncertain about the draft and what the future is, here's an offer.
Yeah.
We hope to have you. And then they just skip that altogether. But then sometimes you run the risk of being blackballed from MLS
Yeah.
because you didn't want to go their way. So it's like kind of like I don't feel like naming names.
No, but you're right. Where it's like I think a lot of teams right now do wait for the like the test, but then again, it's like I think they can fast track that
Yeah.
and like do their own work and looking at it. Because what if you have a better scout than an MLS scout, but you're
Yeah.
just working for a lower team? You know what I mean? And it's like it's not a competition, but it's like if you can identify talent that fits whatever team you're working for, then
And I think it's just, I mean, the financial benefit that they're kind of, again, like we showed the graphic, there are incoming players from college. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but obviously the financial status is different. Maybe a lot of these teams would be like, yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to have 3 to 5 more college guys to bring into my roster, but we just can't pay them.
yeah.
But I mean, it's the MLS versus USL in terms of like developing a pro career long term. I mean, I'd have to think about it a lot more, but the opportunity that USL would have to take college soccer a lot more seriously. They're coming in 22, 23. You train them, you value them, you give them time on the field. They develop a professional resume. You might get 500 to a million on a decent transfer deal to like Belgium or something.
Yeah.
Like some of those, or Scotland. Some teams that actually, or leagues that do look at our leagues. And, Francie uh, went from, well, no, he was a Rapids player, but I think he was released. But Coastal Carolina forward, heck of a player over in Europe for multiple seasons. Pretty sure he was like a Golden Boot winner in like a couple of the leagues that he went to. But speaking of international players, another question: how does international player status also impact or limit opportunities for players as they advance from college to pro leagues? Seems like a disadvantage when moving to MLS and MLS Next Pro. I think part of the way pro staffs look at it is whatever you're going to pay. Like, let's say we're drafting, me and Dylan were hypothetically, what team doesn't have MLS? We're the Duluth United, and we're in the draft. When it comes to drafting international players, we know what our target salary is, like the league minimum. But in terms of the roster slot itself, like if you look at how often an MLS team trades away an international slot, that general allocation money is the value of that slot. So you have to attach that value to the salary. So like if we bring in a guy, we're paying him 100,000, technically on the books, that, like, yes, we're giving away $100,000 of actual money. But the general allocation that is combined with that could be 300. So I mean, we're not like giving away the 200K, but it's just like the valuation of that contract.
Yeah. And
So, I mean, we saw it actually, I still have it. This is from 2024. I didn't do one for this past year, but like more U.S. domestic players get drafted because obviously too, like fans with international slots, they want the Messis and the Thomas Mullers and the Sons out there to occupy the international slots. They don't really show up, and I mean, you could be and there's an amazing amount of really good international players at the college level that even do get drafted and go into the first team and play really well. But like, there's only so many international slots in the MLS rosters. So if you want to sign like the Latte Lots, the Miguel Almirones, like,
you're going to do that instead.
yeah, exactly. Because especially
And
for some of these teams that they think that signing the big name players, it does work for some teams, like bringing fans in the door. But I've always been an advocate of, what really brings in fans? Winning games.
yeah.
So
And another story, I had a teammate I played with, international, complete baller. And I remember I was talking to a coach and they just put an X through his name strictly because of his age and his status of being an international. So it's out of, like, I think it does affect them a lot more because they like, while that player could fit in and be amazing, in their mind, they're thinking about what you just said, the superstars. And, I think that player's now playing in the second division pro and like a high level overseas. And it's like, well, yeah, like that could have been another like big time player, whether it started with the second team and moved up, but that's just how it is in the MLS and even the lower leagues where it's like if you're older and international, you could be amazing, but the team just might not want you strictly because of that.
Yeah, especially with the focus on the teenagers and allowing them the pathway up through and bringing in a more seasoned guy, even if you would be more effective right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know. That's kind of the Philadelphia Union rationale behind pulling out of the draft.
Yeah.
But then again, like, to say that they don't value the college environment, that's a little bit off base because obviously they send a lot of their academy guys out to college, get them more experience in different environments, and then potentially bring them back. So it's not like they don't use it; it's just used in a different way. Um, Speaking of players, Dylan Lane, what a player!
I don't know who that is. That's weird. No,
Is that Paul? Is that Paul Jones
that's Paul
from
Jones.
Gonzaga?
He's at Gonzaga right now.
Yeah.
It's funny. I used to play against him, and when I was at Furman, and I set him for hot dogs whenever we played. It was a long day for him in the midfield.
Well, didn't he win first team?
Yeah, that was sarcasm, but no, he's a good player. He was at the Domori this summer and played really well, so
Yeah,
he's
there you
definitely
go.
someone to look out for.
Yeah, top program. They actually brought in a few players. Gonzaga. I forget. There
They
was
have
a couple more like big time transfers, I thought.
yeah,
So yeah, that'll be an interesting team up there, I feel like.
pretty campus. When I looked it up, but I just know them because of the basketball.
Yeah, Eastern Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about opening it up for players. Yeah, like even so, yeah, we're not like ragging on USL because I do think that what they're doing right now and what they will be doing soon with adding more clubs, creating a true pyramid, like that is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to benefit or they could benefit most from this player pool because with all these new teams, you're going to need players. And there are plenty of players out there that can step into these teams and basically, like, how many USL League 2 teams are competitive against USL League 1 and championship teams already in like Open Cup format or preseason, well, like college teams against these pro teams and MLS Next Pro teams in the spring season. Like West Virginia was beating up on Riverhounds. So it's not like these guys can't play. And if you craft a roster of these top talents with the coaches who know how to create a full team from scratch, it's like you can do some really great things. But yeah, I mean, it's not just exclusive to them on like the money troubles or things like that in terms of what I wouldn't even say money troubles. It's just like, I mean, hearing some of those next pro contracts too, it's like kind of shockingly low for what you'd imagine an MLS team to be able to offer a player. But it's like, oh, this guy's a captain of a big time program. Oh, how's 14K sound? It's like, what am I gonna do? Go work at Chipotle part time? Like,
yeah, and you might get free bowls, but it's not worth it. Like, that's not worth
yeah, it's like no wonder some of these guys are just like, yeah, I
Well, I
do
think
love.
like
It's like I
that's
love the game, but I'll go sell real estate or
but that's the
something.
misconception with like I think especially like high schoolers, like young players that are listening, they think these contracts for these teams, whether it's MLS second team or whatever, like it's not luxury, and it's difficult because You only get paid for the months you're playing. And if you're young, there's so many recycled players around the USL system that are experienced and proven, you could say, that have jumped to 3 to 4 clubs. So if you
Yeah.
come on in on a limb and the coach doesn't know you, but he liked what he saw during preseason or whatever, and had enough money to give you the league minimum and house you with like 1 or 2 other kids or young players, and you don't perform well, you could be out. And it's difficult because not only you could be out, but for that time you're not making enough to live on your own. So it's definitely like not luxury, but that's part of the grind, right? You gotta love it.
Yeah.
But then it goes back to like if they had more financial backing, ideally, you know, it would be more smooth.
Yeah. And I think, um, yeah, I think we can spend the rest of it on the scouting component.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I mean, even with the changes, it still always comes back to how many people will actually be that actually have a valued opinion. How many
Mhm.
of those people are actually watching the games
Yeah.
and IDing players? Because the assessment that needs to go into finding the right players and recognizing the potential, and again, like I said earlier, in scouting, I think especially at the younger and emerging talent levels, it's like envisioning effectively what that player could look like 2, 3, and 5 years down the line, and what you could potentially add to that player's game to elevate him even more, and then having a coaching staff that is completely on board with that vision and being like, yeah, we'd be happy to bring that kid in and work with him on these types of things and just see him flourish. And some teams it's pretty obvious that they have that vision. Other teams, it's just like, well, I mean, he was named to the All-American list. Like,
Yeah.
don't know anything about him, but he
He has
won
the
some
accolades.
awards.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, yeah, he's a good player too, but there's a difference between a good player with a team that doesn't really have a plan for him and a good player that the team is like, we know exactly how to work with this guy and
Yeah.
what we want for him. So since you do this in your professional life now, um, I think some teams are starting to do a little bit more of this, but I do want you to fit this into this episode. But IDP stuff, I think at the pro level would be because it goes in theme with like developing players and improving US soccer.
Yeah.
But I want you to talk about like, or give a sales pitch on what IDP would be for pro clubs that maybe don't do it already.
No,
But
yeah. I mean, IDP, it stands for individual development plan. And it's for, honestly, ideally, everyone within the team, but that's difficult because if it's a one-man show, it's tough to get 25 IDPs, right? So usually it's for players who are on the starting and not starting line. And on top of that, the younger players that have that growth and that kind of timeline of like, okay, this is like I'd say superpower, even though they're adults or young kids. Like this is what you're very good at, right? But these are some improvements that you can improve upon. How can you combine the two to make that progress and slowly become an all-around better player, right? Then you also have the starters who play 80, 90 minutes, who you have an IDP, and it might not be as much on the field because of the body and the strain, but it might be video analysis, right? Walkthroughs. And the biggest thing with this is it's not like we're going out to train an hour 45, right? It could be like a 30-minute session plus a 30-minute video session. And all it might be is we're going to work on one thing this week. We're going to progress it to add a little bit more within that topic the second week. And the third week, we're going to add more. And the whole point of IDP is slowly but surely that player improves and understands it, right? So when I was at Watford, where I was working with a midfielder that maybe struggled scanning, right, or his body orientation, it's not just me telling him, hey, this is what you're bad at, right? Like, this is what you have to improve upon. It's more of like, okay, I want to dumb it down so it's easy to process, right? Because as a soccer player and anyone, the moment you start saying big words and 2, 3, 4 points, you lose the player, you lose anyone.
Well,
So it's like,
especially in team training versus
yeah.
actually working with them
So it's
one-on-one,
like,
because like that's what you do now.
yeah,
And I mean, it's obvious to anybody, but like even some of the guys that have worked with you are like, I've touched the ball more in one training session with Dylan than I had in an entire week at
yeah,
my team. And
yeah.
because, you know, if it's a particular skill or anything like that, it's like the more reps a player does, the
Second
better they'll
nature,
be
yeah.
at it. And
And like,
a lot of it is, even if that's on the radar of the coaching staff,
yeah,
they just can't stop the training session and be like, you know, Joe Smith,
yeah.
you need to, like, this is the type of cross we need,
Yeah, and
more
that's not fair
consistent.
on, like, the team. That's why IDP is so important. So, like,
Yeah,
with the midfielder situation, it was, like, 30 minutes twice a week after training, and it was, like, me playing a ball, but, like, what we were walking through the body orientation for certain situations. So, like, the opposition 10's pressing on the left side, how do you open up so you offer support, or maybe it's just a bounce back? But then after that, it would be game film, right? It's not like watching 90 minutes together, but it's me clipping 2 or 3, maybe times it could have been better, but maybe 1 or 2 times it was good to have that positive reinforcement, right? And I think for attacking players, it's a little bit easier, whereas midfield is such a complex position. And like even outside back, where like it's like at the end of the day, these players have free will. So you might have one decision that's good, but you could have 3 or 4 other decisions that are also good, right? So you can't tell the player that was the best decision. Like it might be, but if you fast forward 2 seconds, then the whole game and the picture changed, right? So it's always ever changing and flowing. Like with the striker, it's just constant reps. So it's like, okay, are you a poacher? Are you a holdup? Are you a runner? Okay, you're a poacher, so we want you within the posts and we want you to get reps. So come a game day, you know you're going to finish. And it's difficult because you're a product of your environment. So let's say whether it's college or pro, if you're doing like a in season and you're not getting a lot of touches because it's a walkthrough or a chill session, you don't lose it, but you want to be sharp, especially as a forward player. So that just might be 10 minutes after finishing, or maybe not that, but you watch a video of something good that player did, or maybe a pro comparison. Because I think even if you're a pro and league win a championship, having a pro comparison of the top players in Europe is always good because you want to
yeah,
strive to be like that. So, and I know I'm kind of going on and on, but like I think we've talked about it and you've seen it firsthand with me training. It's just like, the IDP shouldn't be strenuous. It shouldn't be like a hassle for the player. I think ideally the player slowly gets that understanding and sees improvement and becomes hungry to continue that, you know?
yeah. No, I
And
don't think anybody should ever think that it's like a bad thing. It's like,
yeah. And
but
I think
I mean, I've told some of the, like, some guys in the pro staffs, it's like I've asked if they had stuff like that, because it's even like, you know, seeing, I remember a 6'7" center back, uh, and it's like when he actually gets up to speed, it's even this type of stuff that I'm like referring to, where you're looking at a player and you're like, man, the the size, the physicality is there, but man, 5 yards, that dude cannot get accelerated.
yeah,
Like technically, that's something you can still work on,
yeah,
whether it's like in the gym for hamstrings, working with track coaches, or like to actually explain. Because I swear, some of these guys at the college level, like they could already be noticeably faster if they just spent like an hour with their college track coach and was like, hey, can you watch me sprint and give me any sort of advice on particular form? Because
Mhm.
like there for the IDP stuff, for any of this stuff, it's like if you're serious about being a pro, my opinion is you gotta overturn it like any stone you can because uh
And
like
like
you
it's
really
like
only have that small window, so you gotta like maximize it for sure.
and I've done some courses online to like the APFA, which is like Premier League analysis coaches are like from the past, and I think it's beneficial because it kind of goes in depth and gives examples, and you have to complete it and like turn it in. So I think that helped, and I think it's also very important for the bench players and young players who don't play. I feel like some colleges have it, but like I said, when you get caught up in the season and you have to do video analysis on the opposition team, then plus your training session to show players, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle of like, oh, this player hasn't gotten any love, hasn't gotten a conversation, they're in the dark, right? So I think especially players who are in between the lineup or maybe not the best mentally right now because they're not playing IDPs big because it's like you're giving them a pathway and telling them what they have to work on. And I just feel like if teams had that on top of that scouting infrastructure, they might look at a player who has all these strengths and positives and maybe two or three things they have to improve upon, but they have a system in place to help that player improve upon the negatives or whatever you want to call it and back themselves that throughout the first season they're going to improve upon. And then the second season, they hit the ground running and you're still doing video analysis and reflection and all that. Then that's where the profit can come and the flipping of players to go to other clubs can come.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
like,
how I see it for
yeah,
sure. Is like, man, he's where he's at right now. Imagine that. Like, it's like these guys that go from, like into Bayern Munich and they become like absolute freaks. And
yeah,
it's like being in a pro environment with the right facilities. Like, obviously, a lot of college programs have amazing facilities. Some even
better than
better
the
than a
pros.
lot of like the lower level pros in Europe. But it's like maximizing that stuff and like the amount you can learn in 2 weeks on a particular skill that could be a big asset to your game and create more playing time for you. And in doing that, creates more market value for you and more opportunities to move like to a different club and all that. So,
Yeah. And I think like the last point is like I think all it takes is one conversation with the player too. Not saying this conversation is going to make the player become a better player, but it's like, hey, this is what we're going to work on, and this is a plan in place. Do you trust me? And once you get them on board mentally, then the sky's the limit. And it's still going to be a work in progress, and some players' progression might be slower, right? But that's part of it. But like to your point, it's just like an all around beneficial thing. But then if you add that component to like what we talked about with the system and infrastructure in place to find these players, to watch the games, to have a database in place. You know what I mean? It's like that's what you want.
yeah. Well, speaking of databases, uh, that's one of the things that Dylan and I have started up. We're not going to reveal the secret sauce, but yeah, I mean, heading into this season, I mean, I've had spreadsheets from the past seasons, so I've kind of transferred over some guys from that are still in college. But yeah, I mean, we've started off with a pretty substantial list of players, and we have pretty detailed set of criteria. And over the course of the season, we're going to be. I mean, we have a base score in there for each of us, and that score is basically um, a projection of where they could be as a professional. So the higher the score to 10, the more likely that they'll have a successful pro career given the right opportunity. Lower might not work out, probably, but it's all based on that detailed set of criteria. And and a lot of the things that we account for and weight and stuff that we just, I guess, know from, well, me years of doing it. You have been a natural.
And I think like the biggest
That
thing, like I think it helps from our backgrounds, and like I think at the end of the day, like we watch so many games where it's not like we watch one game and make an opinion. It's we've seen these players for
yeah,
now 2-3 years, and if we haven't seen them, we don't make rash opinions or judgments. We look up their full games, we watch highlights, we look into people who if they know them. So I think your experience and my experience is like it's just you watch the game, and when you watch the game from more of a tactical perspective, because if you enjoy doing that, and like we're like-minded, so the conversations we have, we work off each other. So it's not like we're just like, oh, did you see that goal? It's like, oh, let's talk about the players within that goal. So I
yeah,
think like,
for sure.
like you just naturally kind of become accustomed to talking like that. So then you watch every game tactically. So whether it's a college game or a pro game, you're like, oh, I find this interesting. So I think that's why it's helped us. And I mean, I'm looking through the list now, like we have like 90 to 100 names already. So
Yeah,
like I said,
that's not even close to. I still have to add in
yeah,
like
no,
50,
but my
but
point being is like this is something that like you want, like you put the description of what you want and then these players pop up. Like that's all it takes. It's like
yeah,
it's grinding to work, but if you watch the games and see it, it makes your life easier because now you have a short list of what you want,
yeah. Because the way, I mean, we've talked about it before, but I mean, obviously, we became friends because like we do view the game in a pretty similar lens. Like it is cool, like having a slight differences.
Yeah.
That way, we can like have a
Challenge
discussion
each other.
about
Yeah.
player. Yeah, exactly. But
Because
it's
you called me once and like, you really think that? I'm like, yeah, I think that. It's like
like,
a
oh
like
wow, you agree.
yeah. But I
Yeah,
think that's what makes you think about the game too. Like, and I think that's why assistant coaches and head coaches, like it's like a wife and husband kind of vibe where it's like, like you might see stuff at a different perspective, but at the end of the day, you come to the conclusion that hopefully
yeah,
help the team. So it's like me and you talking
yeah,
about footy players. It's like, okay, I understand your perspective. I understand my perspective. We don't even have to meet at a middle ground, but now I know something more about the player in the game because we talked. You know what I mean?
yeah. Because like it also with that, it's so easy to figure out like what player like you could have. We'll probably end up with like let's say 200 midfielders, but everyone knows that there's so many different roles of a midfielder or center midfielder. So it's like having it down to what exact system would they be the best in,
Mm-hmm.
and you know talking about watching the games and stuff, like, I mean, this is easy for us, but like maybe the fans out there don't know maybe the level of which scouts go into it, but it's like it's not even just passing accuracy, it's what's the weight of the pass? How do they turn on the ball? How many or like just even the details down to even their running form for me. Like cuz that will show. It's just something I carried over from college because my college track coach was I guess like an NFL scout, but he would tell me all the stuff about like the physical build of a player down to the muscle structure of the player
Yeah.
and how that kind of or what teams could use or build on to a player with that type of physicality or physical build. So there's like so many components to these things, especially when, I mean, we've heard it from the pro scouts. It's like part of the criteria for some of these teams is elite physical
Mm-hmm.
attributes because they can work with helping create the skills through like IDP stuff,
Mm-hmm.
more touches on the ball, better like coaches.
And
Not
you can argue like a
yeah,
good scout, like you were talking about, like the weight of the pass, how a player moves. If a player needs a midfielder that has that criteria, and maybe you could see him as a deeper lying playmaker on top of an 8, on top of a 10, so an all around midfielder. And you watch his games, that's a player that you keep in the back of your mind. It's not like, oh, I watch, I'm going to wait until the draft. It's like, hey, let me follow along. Let me take notes. Let me write up how he can fit within this pro team or within the team that I work for. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
maybe it's like, maybe he doesn't fit the system, but then you watch another player that might fit the system. Now you have 2 names already. Then you have 3, then you have 4. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, this guy's good. I want him on my team. It's, he could be great, but if you want 3, if you want like a midfielder that's a box to box and engine, you probably don't want a 10 that can drift wide and not really defend. You know what I mean? But if you want
Yeah.
a 10 that does that with 2 6s behind, then you want that 10. So it's like, it's not, it's like black and white, but it's also not black and white because there's so many different puzzles to complete, you know?
Yeah. Because that's the thing with the stats that we always talk behind the scenes, like we as me and all my friends. It's like you have to know what you want, and it's like keep using the midfield example, but it's like, oh wow, he's like a 95% passer. It's like, yeah, but we don't really need that because we're
Yeah.
not really a possession based team. We need deep lying playmaker types that, like, yeah, if they have 10 passes that are progressive or key pass attempts and only 3 of them work out, we're not going to ding him because his passing percentage is low.
Yeah.
We're going to judge him on, can he make those dangerous passes? Is he
Mm-hmm.
willing to? Because, like, I mean, wow, 95. If half those are back passes to the center back who's unmarked, it's like, God, you want me to go out there and do that? Because,
Yeah.
like, there's always context. My point is there's context to the stats. Obviously, I take passing percentage, but I do like expansive, progressive, and negative to kind of show the effectiveness across all the categories. For players, like I did one for Duran last season, like a kind of a case study on 6
Yeah.
of the games just to see the consistency of his passing. But it's like, you know, all these things, and there's a long list of other things that are taken into account. And yeah, it's just that's one of our missions, we'll say. But I will also say that it probably won't be publicly released
No way.
because it's a very honest assessment. Like, there's some fantastic things. Like, a lot of the players would love to see us say what we say about them. But again, like, we do identify areas in which I actually think, anybody can work on anything. So it's in a category of that's something that they'd improve upon. But if you have a coaching staff who's like, I can work with that and I can develop that, then you're going to get a world class player. Well,
Like,
not
yeah, it's
like
like,
a
yeah, it's
Manchester
like,
City player, but like you're going to have a player that's going to be serviceable.
yeah. I think that's why we're doing it because there's nothing really out there like, I feel like this in regards to like the eye test, then looking more in depth tests, than the statistics tests. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we're doing it
Character.
because it's and also like we're doing this because it's like we enjoy it. It's not
Yeah.
like,
It's fun
this
for
is
sure.
just fun, and it's not like it's just these players deserve to be recognized, and the first step of that recognition is diving into it and seeing the pros and cons and the next phase of the development, which hopefully is pro. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Because obviously, well, if people still don't know, I mean, we both have jobs. So this is a hobby.
That's
But
why
we
it's
just
Sunday
we
at
just
8 p.m.
yeah,
That's the only
we
time we
we just
got.
love it so much, man. You can't stop us from just doing it for fun.
Little lunch phone call of 10 minutes. Hey, I gotta go. I gotta go
Yeah.
too.
But but
Any
yeah, I
question?
mean, I will also say, like, we have talked to several players, and I'll always say it's just a cool thing where all the players I've worked with over the past few years, it's like the amount of them that almost their first question to me is like, where do you think I need to improve? And they're open to like hearing somebody else's assessment, and they aren't like upset about. Obviously, I'm not like you suck at this, man, but like that's not my personality. But yeah, I mean, there's a hey, where players are great about listening to anybody. They'll ask anybody that'll give an honest opinion because they just want to get better.
I think that's the thing too. It's like I think they're sometimes more responsive from someone who's not a coach or a parent or a friend in that regard, where it's like, especially the amount of college footage we've watched and players we've talked to and we've trained and just done analysis on. It's like if they can learn one thing or maybe not learn anything at all, but have a good conversation about soccer, then that's still something better than nothing. So it's like, yeah, it's just like I said, it's just like we want to build a community of like-minded people who, it's not like, hey, sign up for the Zoom call and how we can just dissect your film. It's, oh no, let's just, like if we have a call, like we talk on the phone, we talk on the phone. And even then that doesn't even happen like that. But
yeah, because it's like, and also I'll sneak in there is like we obviously know the systems.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're like advising anything. We obviously take that into account. Like if you want to be better, like these are the areas that you could improve upon.
We're not saying drop in as a left back and like get the like it's like it's more like individually like
some outsider told me I need to do this.
It's like no. And even like we don't even have those conversations like that, but it's like
no.
It's like an IDP situation where it's like, hey, you want to score more
it's
goals,
more skill based.
This technique, work on this step, work on your body movement, right? It's like it's stuff like that. It's not like going against some tactic.
No. It's just it's skill based mostly. And like it's usually the off season where it's like, what particular skill attribute should I work on that'll elevate my profile. But yeah, I mean, we'll end here. I started the ticker at the bottom. There's a long list of games. I picked out a fair amount of them, kind of put where you can find them.
Maryland at Wake Forest, that would be a good one.
Yeah. Hope you got Spectrum.
Yeah, I do. So, I mean, usually it always bugs or does something, but I mean, a lot of good games. But if the chat has any questions about what we've talked about or about soccer, college soccer, leave like we're gonna finish up here, but we can spend like a minute or two answering any questions, even though usually no one says anything, so we can give it a second or two. If not, though, follow us on Twitter because with the games coming up, we have a lot of stuff in the chamber in regards to player spotlights, team spotlights, and we're one follower away from 100. So who's gonna be the 100th one?
Yeah, maybe we'll start making some merch so we can give free shirts.
I know, maybe not. I don't, maybe.
No.
Like,
well, it's like, man, all the money you spend.
I don't know. I no offense, I want to buy a shirt from us.
I don't know. I used to make some pretty awesome shirts back in college, and it wouldn't be like the full front graphic tees.
It would be like a clean.
Yeah. But yeah, what in the last 2 minutes here, what games are you going to be trying to? I don't know your work schedule tomorrow, or on Thursday.
I mean, I'm working, but I'm definitely going to rewatch some. I think, to be honest, UCF at UNC will be a big one. I think with
there's a lot to learn about the new crew at North Carolina. And I think especially with like South or Central Florida, the type of players that they have are interesting. So
I think low key South Carolina at Charleston will be good because I think Charleston's always a good team. That's a tough place to play, but it'll be a good test for South Carolina to play a team that they should beat on paper. Because if they take care of those teams, it'll be easier to like see, okay, like, the main focus should be on like the bigger teams. But again, you have to take every game seriously. Washington at Denver too is always a good one.
Yeah, especially with, I think, the second game for South Carolina is at Clemson.
Yeah.
So you want to go into Clemson with some momentum.
Yeah, because I think that game will always that game will be have a lot of storylines, and that will be a good one.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Manhattan,
Um,
Drexel, or Gardner Webb. Yeah, like
yeah.
there's some good ones. So
Yeah, I'll be starting off my day with Boston and the 3 o'clock kickoff.
Clemson,
New
Indiana, of
Hampshire.
course. Yeah,
Yeah, that one will be big.
Georgetown at High Point. I'm not gonna lie, Georgetown playing
That
on
one,
turf
yeah,
will be very interesting because that High Point field is it's a nice field, but it's completely different from what Georgetown's used to.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad I have my 2 TVs set up. I got my 2 laptops, so I'll
People
be
think
like
it's
kind of
college
focused
football, but
on
it's
one
not.
game, but then also kind of wandering to see like what the goals are looking like for some of these other games because that 7 o'clock time slot is crazy.
That's what I wish. I wish they like divided it because like what I used to do is I think I would have my computer and TV, but I would like watch 5 minutes and click off, watch 5 minutes, and it's just. But I might have to do you a tactic and get like just buy 3 mini TVs and just say
You know, if there's one thing in America that is consistently cheaper, it's TV. Maybe they just want us glued to it.
that's a whole nother podcast though. No,
Yeah.
no, I like that.
In the off season, maybe we'll go into some like life things.
Yeah, no, I think we'll do some maybe vlogs kind of style. Maybe like hit the golf course and see what we got, behind the
Yeah.
scenes
Some
of a very boring lives.
reality TV show recaps.
Comment down below what you would want to see me and Mark do together.
I know my brother would be stoked if we did like a Love Island review show or
I never watched Love Island, and I'm glad because it's some questionable stuff I've seen from them. But I mean, do you think you would do well on Love Island or what? Talk to me.
oh they aren't making Love Island for 35-year-olds.
I mean, you can, like, you're an older guy. You got some nice charisma about you. You go in with a smile on your face. You can make some stuff happen. What's the point of Love Island? Do you just find love and then like the best couple wins?
Yeah, it's kind of just for social media clout at this point. Anyone who's here for soccer, you
We're
can
now
feel
a Love
free to go
Island
to you can
podcast.
feel free to go to bed. But
Yeah. Unless you have a soccer question, but I doubt it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm trying to think of my favorite reality TV show for the dating world. I mean, Love Island, or I wouldn't say Love Island. Even Love Is Blind is like just I don't know, and dating in general.
Yeah, man, that's a whole.
Modern,
But yeah, I think I
yeah,
watched Too Hot to Handle when I was back in my day, which was again, I don't recommend it. You kind of
yeah.
lose brain cells.
That's a funny premise because it's like these people cannot think with any
But
sort
I
of
do think,
emotional intelligence. It's like
yeah,
all about physical.
I think the tactic is smart though, because nowadays these people go into the show knowing I'll get kicked off, I'll make a big scene, then I get a bunch of followers, and I'm making brand deals. I'm moving to LA.
Yeah,
Like now they're an influencer, and like if that's what they want, then so be it. But you're not gonna catch me anymore doing that. You gotta catch us on Sunday talking about college footy. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, on that note, thanks everybody again for joining as always. Yeah, follow us on Twitter, especially Thursday onward. We're gonna also, I mean, the women's season is kicked off. I will actually. That's the last thing I'll end on. The the uh, the plug I want to make for women's soccer in our college environment. Like we have players leaving, and this is another case for no more MLS draft. When NWSL got rid of the draft, we see players like Kaya Hanks leaving for a really great deal with Portland's. Like Nicole Vernis is at Lazio in Italy. Even the goalkeeper on my 8th grade team 10 years ago, she just signed a contract with a Greek team because she was the starting goalkeeper at Charlotte. So Emma Wakeman, good job. But yeah, I mean the level here, I think there will be plenty more American players that are going abroad because, I mean, some of these college programs are very watchable. Like
mhm.
it's kind of funny that the Wake Forest team is almost like both men's and women's share the same style in a way,
The
of like
DNA.
clean possession. But yeah, if you're bored, I'm sure there's more games this week leading up to the season for the men's side. But yeah, we'll try to tune in a little bit here and there on them as well, because there's definitely some high caliber players.
Oh yeah.
But alrighty, good night.
Thank you guys.
Try to enjoy the week. Luckily, you're only waiting till Thursday. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Peace.